Let's talk about white balance. Hey, what's up you guys? Nick here. For those of you who are new to my channel, my name is Nick. I'm a professional photographer. I've been shooting professionally for the last 4 years, though I've had a camera in my hand for the last 17 ever since high school. And one of the things I talk about a lot, and I've talked about it in several of my videos, but I've never really explained, is white balance. Now, white balance is the way your camera calculates the Kelvin, or the unit of measurement of the light, to determine how to give it the perfect look. You know, in some of the older photos that you look at and the lighting to you looked white when you took the photo, but when you actually get it developed, if you're from the film era or you pull it up on your computer and it's kind of a yellowish tint, that's because the white balance was off. Now there's several different presets for white balance. I shoot in auto white balance, and the reason I do that is because I shoot in RAW. RAW just gives me a basic image file. It's not actually a photo per se, but it's just all the information that's captured, and it allows me to get onto Lightroom and change the white balance. So now that we've gone over a little bit of white balance, we're gonna jump over to my computer where the audio isn't fantastic. I didn't have a mic plugged into my computer properly like I thought I did, but before that, I wanna ask you guys if you would subscribe. We hit 700 subscribers really, very quickly, and at 1,000 subscribers, I am giving away this Nikon N80 35mm film camera. It will go to someone who is either active on one of my social medias or is active here on YouTube, but at 1,000 subscribers, I am giving away this Nikon N80 35mm film camera. So make sure that you guys are subscribed and you hit the bell notification so you guys know right when I upload. I think I have this figured out. Now we have a photo of Ariana right here, and as you can see, the yellows are a little too yellow, the reds are super vibrant, and down here at white balance, you see it's as shot. Now that was with auto white balance. Now if we move that to auto, Lightroom is deciding what color scheme or what lighting temperature looks best for this photo. Now, that's the benefit of using RAW instead of using JPEG. On JPEG image, you can't change these settings. So let's look at the different settings that are available. So if we go to daylight, this is configuring it to straight daylight, harsh lighting. It almost looks like auto, which that my camera decided that daylight was probably the closest to it. And as you can see, I'm switching between as shot and daylight, and there are some minor differences. Now, if we move to cloudy, as if you have cloud cover, and that cloud cover is making everything a little bit softer, it's not as intense of a frequency of light. And as you can see, it's a little more orange. Her face is a little more blown out by that yellow that's right on the edge right over here. Now, if we move from cloudy to shade, which is basically when you're shooting in straight shade, you don't have the light source directly on you. Again, we're getting more vibrant, more yellow right on her face. The red is starting to get washed out by that yellow. And if we move to tungsten, which is generally flash, but not always, there's a lot of tungsten lighting, tungsten flashes, you get a really deep blue. Now, if this was actually shot in a tungsten, you would get closer to your auto settings, but as you can see in tungsten, it's very blue. I like tungsten perfectly because I like the bluer, mellower tones that it adds to the image. Now, if we move to fluorescent, it gives her skin tone a little more purplish. It kind of tones down the colors. It's not as vibrant, it's not as bright, and it's not as warm. Fluorescent is probably my favorite over tungsten. I do enjoy using both. And then with flash, again, we're seeing more like that daylight color. We're seeing more of the shade color almost. So between flash and daylight, they look almost exactly the same. And then you can actually go through and change it right here. So we can add more tint, or we can add more vibrance to try to bring out what colors we want to bring out and what colors we don't want to bring out. That's the importance of shooting in RAW. RAW allows you to make all of those changes after you take the photo. So you can brighten up the image, you can make it more vibrant, less vibrant, you can increase the saturation, or you can desaturate the image. All of those things are given to you when you shoot in RAW, and that's the importance of shooting in RAW. Now, we did a quick short, which I will link right up there, on using gray cards and white cards. And basically what that's doing is it's setting a custom white balance in your camera. Because I shoot in auto white balance with a RAW file, I don't worry about that all that much because it ends up not being a big deal because I can change everything I need to right here in Lightroom. Lightroom is an amazing tool. Let's check out another image, you guys, and see the kind of differences you can get in color and tone just based off of that. So we'll bring up some photos of Jessica here. Jessica has been in a lot of my videos, as you guys probably know. And let's see here. We'll go with this one right here. It's not quite as sharp as I wanted it, but let's see how the white balance. So I have it on auto white balance, and as shot, as you can see, it's super plain looking. It's super ugly. That's not super vibrant at all. If we go to daylight, it's a little bit warmer, but warmer really wasn't the tone I was going for because we were shooting in winter. Cloudy, you get even warmer, and there's more oranges, and it almost starts oranging her face to where it almost matches her hair. If we go to shade, it's even warmer and even more orange. It's almost Oompa Loompa shade at that point. And if we go to tungsten, it's super blue. Now, if there was a lot of snow on the ground, or she was in a winter fairy costume or something along those lines, which we've done shoots like that in the past, I probably would have went with either tungsten or fluorescent to get that vibe from the photos, especially this one. You got more of a purple tone, but it really makes her eyes stand out against the rest of her skin tone and her hair color, especially against that background. As you can see in daylight, her skin tone, her hair in the background, it doesn't really make her stand out quite like it does in fluorescent. Now, if we go to flash, again, flash looks like daylight. There's not a huge difference. I ended up going with auto, so there is a little bit of difference and contrast between her skin tone, her hair color, her outfit, and the background around her. So let's do another example of this. I think this image of Bailey would be a really good way to kind of set the stage. Now, on this one, I have it set as shot. And the reason I did that is because I liked the color tones. I adjusted these a little bit, but not too much. But I liked the color tones in this image. This was a fall shoot, and that showed up in one of my videos. I'll link that video right up there. But if we went to auto, what it thinks we should have been shooting at, it takes away a lot of that vibrance in the background. You can kind of see the dead trees, the yellows and the reds right here aren't quite as vibrant as it was when I had it as shot. The greens are a little greener, the yellows are little yellows, and this back here, you can see the yellows a little bit better than you can in auto, which kind of takes that away. Now, if we go to daylight, you can really see the yellows, but I don't like the way it made the skin tone look in daylight. Now, if you go to cloudy, the yellows are way more intense. The greens are starting to get phased out by that. Now we go to shade, it's even worse. And to the point where her face is starting to look as yellow as the background. She's not standing out as much, and this was not at golden hour. Now, if this was a golden hour shoot and that's the look we were going for, it would be a different story. Tungsten with the blues, again, if there was snow on the ground or there was ice in that river and she was in the right outfit, this would probably look really good. You have the really kind of desaturated reds right here, the yellows aren't quite as vibrant, and the greens are starting to look like that blue. Now with the fluorescent, again, the dead trees over here, there's not as much yellow in there. The skin tone looks okay, and the grass over here looks okay, as well as the leaves over here, but it still didn't feel quite right. And then flash, again, looks like sunlight. So if we go back to as shot, which is my favorite scent, you can see the fall foliage, the background. There are some details. The details in that bokeh, is there enough to look good and not just a blurry mess, but she still stands out against that background. We'll do one more with extreme yellow. This one, again, is set to as shot. You go to auto, it takes away that background. It takes away that fall vibe. And then if we go to daylight, again, it's pretty close to how I was shooting it at, but you can see right here there's a little more yellow, and then over here there's a little more yellow than when I had it as shot. I wanted those details in the background to give the impression that we were among trees and not just a yellow background. And then if we move to cloudy, those yellows are going to intensify, and those yellows on her face are going to intensify to a point where with shade, she doesn't even stand out against the background. It looks like she's wearing just straight yellow makeup. We go to tungsten, we get the blues, but you can't see the yellows in the background, which what's the point of using the bokeh to create that effect if we can't see it? Fluorescent is a little more purple, but again, we're missing those yellows in the background, which I find extremely important. And flash, again, looks like daylight. So now that we have returned from the poor audio quality of my computer and my double chin, because I was using the laptop camera because I didn't have my web camera plugged in and formatted correctly, that is the importance of shooting in RAW, and that is the importance of white balance. White balance can completely change the tone of a photograph, as I showed. With daylight and shade, it really warms up the image, whereas with tungsten and fluorescent it really cools down your image. Now with your flash it generally matches what sunlight says, but again it all comes down to personal preference. I prefer cool photos. And what I mean by that is I prefer using the fluorescent and the tungsten to get started so the images have a bit of a cool feeling to them. Now, that is my preference for when I'm doing artistic photography. If I'm working with a client, I try to match it best with what their expectations of the photo shoot are. If they approach me and they really like that artistic style where it's a little bit cooler, I stick with the cooler images. If they approach me and they want a more standard photo shoot with that warmer standard lighting, that is how I will adjust it. Now, by leaving my camera in RAW at all times, I'm able to adjust that white balance on the fly, which means during my editing process, I can go through and adjust that white balance to match whatever my expectations for the shoot were or whatever my client or model's expectations for that shoot were. So I want to thank you guys again so much. We're at 700 subscribers, which is absolutely amazing. I cannot believe we have made it this far. We're going to hit 1,000 in no time, and again that N80 35mm film camera will be sent out when we hit 1,000 and I choose a winner. So please like, comment, and subscribe. Hit the bell notification. Hit up the comment sections for reals. If you guys have any questions, I will do my best to answer them. One of the shorts I mentioned earlier, the D70 one, on setting your gray card and custom white balance that I linked before in the video, was actually a user asked question that I wanted to answer for them and anyone else interested in knowing the answer to that question. Oh, and don't forget, I have merch available. Merch goes back right into the channel. This shirt seems to be a really popular shirt. I've sold several of these ones, and I will have a link for this shirt down in the description below. So thank you guys again so much for joining me. You have a wonderful afternoon, and I will catch you all on the flip side. Bye!